Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's comes at us from Steven. Hi, Bryan. Please react to Josephine by Fang. You enjoyed their straightforward rock on live stream, but this is a long and varied psych rock song with hints of prog. I think you'll like the emotion of the song, the singing, and the overall composition. Thanks. Let's dive into this. We have 15 minutes of psych rock prog stuff ahead of us. Let's see where Fang is taking us today. There's a calming lightness to this to kick the song off.
All that I lost was suddenly found, and everything smelled like your hair. All is illusion, nobody cares.
The bass is interesting because I don't really hear too much of an attack on it. It sort of just is. The bass just becomes present at times. It's a very soft attack. Speaking of soft attacks, those ghost note rolls on the snare.
Children, they sang us songs they made up. We laugh at the words that don't rhyme. Fish in the ocean swam by our side. All I want into my arms.
It's a very hazy harmony on that All I Want. It's really far out to the sides.
Everyone there was healed and full of love. But then came a storm. Oh, just like the end of time, and took my baby
Okay.
away.
Arpeggiation over here, ornamentation over here. A lot of space in the middle that's just left open. And now we filled that in, so that makes sense.
Oh, Josephine, I knew it from
Like alarms.
that I take your name, it's crawling on my heart. Time warps the mind, but maybe not the soul. I'm caught in the race of secrets I've been told. My love is lost, bullet from the hole. And God only knows where this garden grows. Time warps the mind, maybe not the soul. Your wild eyes, what they have seen, Josephine.
Love the ghost note work. There's a very haunting element here, but there's also an ambiguity of time.
Lost in a valley,
You can feel the snare as one
frightened and weak.
or as one and three. 1, 2, 3.
I dread the
1,
sunrise,
2, 3, 4.
for the light might change me.
We have the alarms going off here still.
It sharpens
The intensity of those ghost notes, dude.
on the ground, laid
The
out
harmonies sound great.
as it sows its seed. Wait for enough tears to flow to wash all the blood off my head.
It's interesting because we're still in that very tense harmony, but it feels like we're floating too. Floating is usually like emotional weightlessness, but there's so much tension still here. even the drums, as moving as they are, they're keeping the general beat, but there's so much pressure to drive forward. Also a really nice use of motif throughout this track, where I frequently find myself thinking, oh, I remember that riff from earlier. It's interesting too how often there's these micro variations. So this is higher energy, and then we're going to pull it back. And so this section is the slower section paired with this intensity. And so this might just be a chorus or something, but it has two parts to it. And a lot of this is built like that. We'll explore why that's important later. I love that chordal movement there. Also, I think this guitar is unique every time we get to this part. It's interesting how muffled this solo is compared to that center solo that we had like 8 minutes ago. Back to the arpeggiation, but expanded here. Here's our 3. So this one doesn't emphasize the 4 as strongly as the last one did. I was wondering if we were going to see a recurrence of that probably 12/8 time signature. But with the cymbal very clearly laying down quarter notes, it's in 3. We don't have the type of ambiguity we had. Yeah, 12/8's a really good time signature for embodying both 4 and 3. Anytime you want to do a polyrhythm like that, 12/8's a good one to go in. Yeah, cool track. There's still sounds. I don't hear any. Okay, now there's no sound left. I wonder if I could have heard something. I mean, I could have heard something if I turned the volume up. I wonder what was going on there, though. Probably just more fade out, though, right? All right. I really want to focus on this duality of sections. I think this is integral to understanding why this song feels the way it does. Most tracks are going to fixate on a specific emotion for a specific section, even if you're looking at something a bit more nuanced, like Genesis, who might not be doing verse, chorus, verse, chorus. It's still going to be these 4 lines of the lyrics are going to be this emotion, so we need to explore that with the music. These 4 lines of the lyrics are going to be this emotion, we need to explore that with the lyrics. And so you can sort of prescribe a one emotion, one section kind of idea. But that's not possible for this track. And really, it's not possible for every moment of this track. There is a duality across almost every single section here. What this means is normally when you're feeling music, you're like, okay, this is the light section. This is the heavier section. This is the layered section. This is the introspective section. And it's easier to break that down, particularly for me, who I'm up here trying to memorize a sort of pathing through a track. And of course, as we reach into more progressive styles of music that might go for 7 or 8 unique parts in their, 15-minute epic or something like that, it becomes a bit more difficult for me to remember the exact path we got through. But using shorthand like this helps a lot. It helps narrate the journey in my mind with simpler ideas that I can reference later and recall specifics based on the shorthand. But when I was trying to map out this track, there's so much going on. I can't just say the verse was this, because the verse was actually 2 incredibly distinct ideas. And when you take that and you realize that there's 5 or 6 unique sections on this track, and they're all carrying these 2 main ideas moving back and forth between them, and that there's even variation. As I pointed this out around 10 minutes in, as we were going for that light and floaty sound into the driving momentum, that the guitar off on the side during the driving momentum was changing its riffage every single time we entered that half of the idea. So it's not entirely linear. It's based on these short cycles of basically pendulum shifting, moving between 2 sides, but there's also linear writing within that. And then we also have bouncing back and forth between ideas too. I think we had some concept of a verse chorus structure at the beginning of the track, and that kind of shifted into something that felt a little bit more linear through the middle. But we have these cycles, and then these cycles are part of a larger cycle where we go from cycle A to cycle B back to cycle A. And now you have cycles upon cycles, but also it isn't just verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, which is a pretty simple structure to remember for the large roadmap. There's linearity in the middle of this too. And I don't think we actually came to a second chorus. I think it was verse, chorus, verse, begin the linear stuff. And so there's so many things to keep track of here on every single layer, all the hierarchy of this, whether you're looking at it from the most bird's eye view down to the minutia, there is variability, there is fluctuation, there is change going on. In my gut, I feel like there was really only like 5 ideas here. Each idea had, well, most of the ideas had the duality to it, But even that's only like 8 or 9 unique concepts. It really shouldn't have been that difficult. I have followed and remembered and kept track of songs with more movement than that. But there is the frequency of changing too. And what it does is it creates a song that feels constantly familiar and constantly unique. It is constantly in flux, but also something that feels rather consistent all the way through. It is a song that feels incredibly complex with a lot of depth and a lot of moving parts, but also easy to follow and digest. Moment to moment, I never got lost. This is a track that I would like to describe as complexity through simplicity, in that if you really break it all down, there's not a lot of moving parts here, but we are constantly changing ideas moment to moment, and it feels longer, larger, deeper, and more varied than it actually is. And I think the fact that we tend to repeat sections for up to 8 times, it leads into something that feels like it's in constant flux, but we're actually staying within these moments for multiple minutes. It creates a song that feels impossible. It is both such a short listen, but also feels so long. Dense and chaotic, but easy to follow. And in each moment, not really too complex. Usually a couple of guitars, the bass, the drums, and the vocals. And it's not like we have, a bunch of layers going on here. And I really like that complexity to it, because it is simple, but it understands how to find strength out of the simplicity and to make something that is more than the sum of its parts. And I think that's where this song really excels. Now, leaning into that more palatable side, the drums are fairly straightforward through a lot of this. We do have some really nice cymbal and snare work in places, particularly to lean into specific emotions and atmospheres. It's usually the drummer who is instigating and leading the charge into the new idea. They're either playing a drum fill that feels half the time of where we are at, or they are ramping up speed or intensity in a drum fill, preparing for where we are going. The rest of the band tends to play what they play, and they only change at the transition. The drummer is the one who gets everything ready. They're the ones thinking ahead. They're like, geez, next bar we're, adding 30 BPM. I got to ramp up for that. I got to build the intensity. But aside from those transition moments, the drums are pretty straightforward throughout. Usually laying down the beat and sometimes putting in some nice intricate work. I mean, those quiet sections with the ghost notes on the snare, phenomenal. Love those. The guitars, for most sections, they have a lick. And that's all you're going to get for that whole section. Now, granted, again, some of these sections bounce between 2 modes, 2 feelings, but there's still only 1 lick per feeling. Overall, I think I'd be surprised if there was more than... For 15 minutes of music, I'd be surprised if there was more than 10 riffs in here for each guitarist. That's not a lot. That's a very low ratio. And they do a lot with that, though, and I think that's the important part there. It's about maximizing and working it efficiently more than... what is it? Work efficiently, not... dang, why can't I think of that phrase? Is that a phrase? Anyways, they are working efficiently, though. Making the most out of what they're working with, and that's excellent. Like I said, it embodies so much of what I get out of this track, and it does so with the least amount necessary. They're not going for complexity; they just want it to be interesting, and I think that is felt all the way through. Looking at the bass lick, man, again, one idea for most of these sections. The vocals tend to repeat the same lick over and over and over, changing the words, sure. But the melody itself, fairly static. Most of these ideas are built off of one idea from all the instruments working together and gelling to create a unified emotion, for that moment. And when we come back to that moment, which we absolutely will sometime in this track, that emotion is going to be there. All the instruments are locking into that sound once again. And so it almost creates a track that is based around emotional building blocks. We have, like I said, probably like 7 distinct sections here. What emotion do they portray? Well, we need something energetic. So we're going to pop our energetic one in. From here, we need something a bit more laid back. Well, we'll pop the laid back one in there. Later on, maybe we've explored some other stuff. We need energy again. Well, now we put the energetic one back in. And I really like this idea of emotional building blocks. I think it allows the song to be developed in an atmospherically natural way by basically focusing entirely on what is the emotional story of this track. And we'll figure out how to create those emotions later, and we'll be able to socket these sections in where we need them. But the story is the core, it's the heart. I think that's really what was designed probably from the start of this. An understanding of what the story was going to be, what kind of emotions they needed to explore within that, and I think more importantly is the evolution of the emotion. What's the order they should be in? And this also brings something else to the forefront of basically reusing ideas later on in a track from previously. Is one, it creates this feeling of cyclicality, creates this feeling of calling back of the song not being a linear journey, but one that's ever connected. But it also constantly re-engages the brain. There's something about hearing a section that we heard multiple minutes ago. This isn't a verse, chorus thing, which I don't think evokes this as strongly in, like sub 3 minute pop music. There's something about listening to a double-digit song and 7, 8, 9 minutes later, you're like, oh, dang, I remember that from earlier. And that callback, it feels good. And we get that all throughout this track because we are working with a more limited number of ideas. And so we also get to see variation on some of these concepts where maybe the harmonic element or the rhythmic element is brought back, but the melody that's played on top, whether it is a guitar or the vocals, are changed. Allows us to recontextualize something that we had heard earlier, to tie this section into the past while still clearly being its own part of the track. This is once again incredibly efficient writing, but it's also what many of the great composers of the past have done. And it's something that I just don't see as often in modern, we'll call it popular music. The metal, hip hop, pop, electronica, and rock. I don't remember if I said rock, but yeah, like the main genres today, we just don't see too much of it outside of more progressive genres, progressive variants of those genres. And so it's really nice to see something here where, it's kind of a more progressive track, but I also think it checks out more into that psychedelic element. There's some progressive parts of the composition, particularly with structure and this idea of callback and recontextualization and motif, which is really powerful here too. One thing that I'm missing here that I think would be really cool on a subsequent listen is having the lyrics in front of me while I listen to the track and seeing if calling back specific sections and pairing that with the new lyrics might add a little tinge of the old emotion into this new emotion and how that plays off of the lyrics in this new moment. Something like that is incredibly tough to pick up on a first time. It requires a bit more familiarity, but it wouldn't surprise me simply because Temple Fang is showing me that they have a lot of forethought in their composition process here. And it seems that a lot of things are done with strong intentions. And something like that seems like something that they would have up their sleeve here. As for the emotional journey, I don't really know I know what I felt in moments. It's tough to turn it into a cohesive journey throughout, though. The beginning of the song starts off very carefree. There's beauty in it. It is a gorgeous start. And then we start drifting from there, literally into places that are more weightless, but also sections that are noisy. There's alarms ringing, there's danger present in places. And one of the things that I love in sort of bringing this back to what I was talking about earlier is the combination of parts. I mentioned somewhere in the middle of this that we returned to sort of the weightless arpeggiations of the guitars on the side, and the vocals were soaring a bit more in their pitch. This was a section that the last time I heard it felt very carefree. And here, though, there is one guitar that's playing tense arpeggios with it. So it feels light and carefree, but also like alarms are going off. There's danger present, and it recontextualizes that feeling from earlier, almost weaponizes it. You want to return back to that, you kind of close your eyes and start lifting, but there's tension, there's anxiety here too. What does that mean? Why am I feeling that here? This is one of those places where I think the lyrics would really clue me into what's going on. And after I've read the lyrics once, knowing the general tale that I'm going to be going through is going to really help a second listen and understanding some of these musical choices beyond the more, intellectual perspective on it's just cool to see this stuff or the depth that's going on there, but actually getting the emotional component out of the composition too. But I really enjoyed the general journey throughout it. Again, I don't have a strong overview of what was going on in it, but moment to moment, everything felt natural, that where we were moving felt like it was directly connected to where we were, and that I could see how all of this was fitting together while also seeing the callbacks. It's something that feels linear and cyclical simultaneously, and I quite enjoyed myself with this one. Let me take a moment to read some lyrics here, and then we're going to wrap this one up. Alright, shout out to Steven for getting the lyrics, as they are nowhere on the internet. It seems to be a song about... well, there's a loss of a relationship. Josephine seems to be someone really important to our narrator. At one point, even saying that one day they woke up to a life free from pain, and that all that they lost was suddenly found, and everything smelled like your hair, and all I want is to be in your arms, because everyone is there free and full of love. So this Josephine person is really important to our narrator. The second verse is also incredibly positive. You were the cure for all that I feared. It says the children sang to us the songs that they made up, and we laughed at the words that don't rhyme. We're having a good time here. After the second chorus, though, it says, but then a storm came, and it howled like the end of times and took my baby away. It talks about how he feels lost now, that his love has been ripped from his heart and he has no idea what to do next. He describes this as being lost in a valley, frightened and weak, dreading the sunrise, for the light might change me. A memory beside me, it sharpens its teeth on the crown made of my own bones as it sows its seed. Now here is the line that makes me wonder what actually happened here. It says, I will wait for enough tears to flow to wash all the blood off of my hands. And then a howling, possibly, of the name Josephine. This is definitely the part of the song where the alarm sounds started ringing. The arpeggiations on the guitars that introduce quite a bit of tension into the music. This entire section is very negative lyrically and musically. There's pain and regret and fear, which is such an opposite feeling of the joy, positivity, and weightlessness of the beginning of the song, both lyrically and musically. I think it's interesting that even in the lyrics, we have this duality. If we look at the song as a whole, it's kind of split right down the middle, with one side doing one thing and the other doing the opposite, which is the same that all of these sections themselves are doing. There is this duality present from the top to the bottom of this song, from the most macro level to the most micro level viewing of it. It's really impressive how many layers of duality and schism they have within this track. But because of this line here, waiting for the tears to wash the blood off my hands, I wonder if he is the reason that Josephine isn't with him anymore. Now, it's written in a way that could mean there's a murder at hand, but it could also just be figurative language, that he's just the cause for the end of this relationship. The end of this track, at least the final words sung, is a repetition of every time you left the room, they let the light in. And Stephen was a bit confused about this line too. I don't know. There is really not much of a they in this entire song. It's how much my life wasn't great, but now it is. My life is free of pain. I found you. I am in your arms. You were the cure for me. It's not really much of a they in here. We do have the children from the second verse, but it seems weird to reference that here at the end. There's no other they. So I don't know what they let the light in means, or why they would have done that when she left the room, or why that would be a bad thing. The music is still fairly heavy here towards the end of the track. But it did talk about earlier that he feared dreaded the sunrise, for the light might change him. Maybe whenever she left, he was forced to reevaluate himself. Maybe he was the problem in this relationship. The light is something to be fearful of, and when she leaves the room, the light is let in. Now, I still don't understand who is letting the light in, but I think the general idea there, from a figurative point of view, works. That self-reflection is necessary at the end of relationships. Maybe the every time you left the room is a little bit of a look into the relationship itself. Maybe it's an on-again, off-again thing, or maybe there's just been that many times when she's decided, this is it, I need some time alone, kind of thing. And she comes back, the relationship buys another few weeks or so, but the problems don't get fixed. That's my best read on it until we get to this point in the song when the relationship is over. But I do like this idea. And I think that the lyrics have a really nice movement through them. You can feel elements begin to escalate, rise in intensity and energy, and an import to reach the stressed and anxious highs that we do with the fear and the regret and the pain towards the end of the track. The music does a phenomenal job at running through this as well. But I am curious what the duality in the sections represent then. I'd have to go back and listen to each individual section lyrically, as well as the two musical ideas that are paired with it, to kind of see if maybe that's foreshadowing or if it's just a really cool technique to keep the song interesting from moment to moment. These, however, are just my thoughts on Josephine from Temple Fang. What did you think of this track? Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you'd like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Do you have your own take, opinion, or perspective on this song? Let me know. Put all of that, as well as anything else you'd like to add, into the comments section below. Above that, in the description box, you can find a link to Linktree. Takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.